whatever we are teaching them, whatever we are sharing with them, we would try our best to get best out of our students so that they can learn the best. Okay, so this environment should be free of any kind of disturbance. Okay, the disturbance should not be there because it hinders the learning process. Okay, and of course the teaching process is also hindered. So basically it is a place, it is a environment which we are giving to the student, so that and that should be undisturbed environment where the learning and teaching process should not be hindered at all. Okay, so when we are talking about classroom psychology, we are trying to study the behavior of our students. We are try to manage our class rather than controlling our class. The time has gone when we used to control the class, but now what we have to do, we need to manage the classroom. Okay, and how we can manage the classroom? By managing the behavior of our students in the classroom. Okay, so it is very important to manage the behavior of students in our classroom, and it is not possible by punishing the students. Back, this is something which used to happen in schools and at higher level education as well, when we used to punish our students. But nowadays this is not acceptable. But at the same time, rewarding students for good behavior is also possible. Okay, so both the extremes are not working anymore. Either we are punishing the students or we are rewarding them for the behavior that they are doing in the classroom. We need to make them behave in such a manner, in such a way that can help them gain most from the classroom. Okay, so that they can learn maximum from the classroom. And we need to make the balance between this punishing and rewarding behavior from the teacher's point of view. And for that very purpose, we try to study the classroom psychology. Okay, before moving ahead, we need to understand what do we understand by the word psychology. So we'll be discussing the meaning and background of psychology. The word psychology is derived from the Greek word, which includes psycho and logos. Where psycho means soul, whereas logo means silence. Okay, so psychology means science of soul. So what we are going to study, we are going to study the science of soul. Okay, so this is a kind of first step that we are trying to do when we are trying to manage our classroom, because when we understand the science of soul, we understand the science of mind, we understand the science of consciousness, and then we can study or we can understand the behavior of our students. Okay, now it is a scientific process. This science of soul can be called a scientific process because it is systematic study of observable events or behavior. Okay, now the behavior can be learned behavior or it may be unlearned behavior. Behavior is said to be learned because sometimes it is acquired through practice. Sometimes it is acquired because we are doing it repeatedly. Okay, maybe because of culture, maybe because of environment which we are in, and we are doing the same practice repeatedly. So it is acquired through practice with time. Okay, as like suppose we belong to our house where we are taught that our family have taught us that we need to pray to God. Okay, or we should be fearful while doing wrong deeds because God may punish us. So we have born and brought up with this psychology, with this thought that if we are doing something wrong to somebody else, the same karma will come back to us. So we restrict ourselves by and not doing anything wrong, or try not to do something wrong to anybody else. This is something that we acquired through practice. Okay, but at the same time, behavior may be unlearned process as well, because our behavior may include some kind of reflexes. It is a psychological process. It works on our instinct. Okay, like when snake comes in front of us, it is automatically comes to our mind that it is going that snake might harm us, and we instantly take a back from wheresoever the place where the snake is passing. So this is how our reflexes, our instincts are working. This is not something which we are taught. This is something we have gained with time. This is something which was not learned actually. This was unlearned behavior, and we are reacting to that behavior basically. Okay, and now what happened today? This psychology is considered as a scientific method because it is known as science. Okay, so it is a scientific method of collecting data about individual and group to analyze and predict their behavior. Now, here to us, this individual and group are our students and our classroom. Okay. Now, what is generally when we hear this word psychology, the words like mental illness, counselors, therapy, these kind of words automatically comes to our mind because we are in such a world or we are surrounded by such people wherein these things are coming to our mind repeatedly. Okay, that we are relating this psychology to some kind of negative words, whereas it is not about only about this any kind of mental illness or counselors or therapies. It includes the way or the method of studying behavior of people. Now, why do people resist? Okay, why we fall in love, why we get attracted to somebody. Okay, how do children behave or change their behavior when they grow up. Okay, this is what psychology is trying to study. Basically, they are trying to study the behavior. Okay, it helps, this psychology helps in studying our day-to-day life, why we are doing so. Okay, and when it comes to counseling therapies, etc., it is something which helps people in counseling any particular type of situation. Now, sometimes what happens, somebody is not able to handle a particular situation. And that time, this therapies, counseling sessions, and everything comes into picture wherein the person is not able to react or able to handle a particular situation, and then they seek external help. Again, it is not any kind of illness, it is just a situation where the person is not able to handle a particular thing at one particular moment. So this is what we are going to discuss today. Okay. These are the famous definitions given by famous psychologists. One was given by this Woodworth and Marquis, who said that psychology is the scientific study of activities of individual in relation to his or her environment. So basically, according to Woodworth and Marquis, it is said that individual behavior is pretty much related to the environment we are in. If environment is good, we tend to behave very nicely, properly, or positively. It also happens when the environment is not in our favor. Okay, it may not be able for everyone, for every human to handle such situations. So what happens? Positive situations are generally handled by most of the people, but it is difficult for people to handle negative situations which are not in their favor. Okay, so that is why somehow we relate the psychology word to the illness kind of thing. Okay. So, and another definition which was given by NL1, he said that psychology today concerns itself with the scientific investigation of behavior. Okay. The previous definition talks about the environment, whereas the next definition talks about the
Excuse me, ma'am.
investigation of behavior. Yes, yes, please.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt, ma'am. The slides are not changing, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
The slides are not moving, ma'am.
Uh, I'm on third slide.
No, it is not moving, ma'am.
Okay. Is it moving now?
Yes, ma'am. Now it is fine,
So
ma'am.
I'm keeping it in this way only. Okay. Okay. Or if you want to share, you may please share.
Yes, ma'am. No issues, ma'am. Then can I start presenting, ma'am?
Okay. So shall I stop presenting?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Yes, please come to that definition slide. Next, next, yes. So as I was talking about the definition which was given by Mann, and he said that we are trying to investigate the behavior by collecting the data, by analyzing the data, and we are trying to predict the behavior of human. Okay, this is how, and that is how psychology actually works today. Okay, next please. Now, there are different branches of psychology which are available. These are categorized into two basic things. One is basic branch and another is applied branch. Okay. When we talk about basic branch, we have abnormal psychology, experimental psychology, general, developmental, and social psychology. But when we are talking about applied branches, we are talking about personality, health, forensic, industrial, clinical, and learner psychology. So there are various branches, okay, which are available in terms of psychology, and as per the specialization, people pursue the study under different branches of psychology. But today, as faculty members, our focus will be on learner psychology, or I can say the classroom psychology. Next, please. So when we are focusing on classroom psychology, so there are much cleaner or definitions which are available in simpler language, which says that learner psychology or classroom psychology, or we also call it educational psychology. Okay, so it is a branch of psychology which is concerned with scientific study of human learning. Okay, how people are learning and how they are behaving, what better we can do to make our students learn in a better manner. Okay, it is nothing but one branch of applied psychology, and it is an attempt to apply the knowledge of psychology in the field of education. Okay, first we are trying to study the behavior and how we are applying this study of behavior in the field of education. Okay, uh, it may also be reiterated as learner psychology is the study of experience and behavior of learner in relation to learner's environment. Now, what environment we are giving to our students and how they are behaving and how they are learning in that environment. And as a faculty member, what best we can do to improve that process of learning. Right? Next, please. These are further definitions which were given by various psychologists. That where Pro and Pro put his definition by saying that learner psychology describes and explains the learning experience of an individual from birth through old age. Okay, so it is not only about when we are talking about learner psychology. Okay, it is not only about that we are into a particular class for that moment, we are trying to study for that moment only. It has to, or it is related to the person since he was born until he is getting old, till he or she is alive. Okay, so since birth, people are getting something from the family, from the culture where they are in. They are moving ahead with when they are going to pre-nursery or nursery or primary classes. Okay, then moving ahead, they are into their adolescence age. Then they are going to colleges, and from all these exposures, they are gaining different types of experiences. Okay, and their behavior is very much dependent upon the experiences that they have received. Okay, from there only they are into the process that why they are behaving in a particular manner at one particular moment. Okay. Then P mentioned that learner psychology is the science of learning, that we are learning right from the birth, as I said. It is a branch of psychology which deals with teaching and learning. Okay, so educational psychology is something when we are talking about how teaching and learning is effective. This definition was given by Skinner. Okay, please move ahead. Next slide, please. Now, learner psychology, how it is related to teaching and learning. Now, there are different points which we keep in our mind when we are talking about learner psychology and how it is impacting teaching and learning process. Now, it helps us as teachers in knowing our learners, who our students are, how they are behaving in the class. Okay, so we need to be prepared before entering into the class. Okay, so whenever we are going for the lecture, we need to know it beforehand that who our audience will be. Okay, I generally give this example when we are taking the same subject. Suppose this is very commonly happened with people from commerce and management background. There are number of papers which are common for management and commerce students. But the way we take classes for commerce and management students are different. Suppose we are taking financial management classes for commerce and management students. The way we are teaching this particular subject to commerce students are different from the way we are teaching the same subject for management students. Okay, so we need to understand our audience before we prepare our class or before we actually enter our class. Now, it also helps us to select and organize the subject matter or learning experiences. As I said, we need to prepare our class before we enter into the class. Okay, so when I'm taking financial management for commerce students, I need to focus more on the practical questions. Okay, on numbers basically. But when I'm taking financial management for MBA students, we need to focus more on the case study thing. We need to focus more on the concepts thing. Okay, so same paper but different audience, different matter that we take to the classes, but whereas the subject is same, the concepts are basically same. Okay, then it also helps us in suggesting art and technique of learning as well as teaching. As I said, in commerce students, we need to take more of questions. We discuss practical questions in the classes. But for MBA students, we take case studies. Okay, because they need to put into such an environment that tomorrow they are going to be the manager. Okay, how they are going to solve a particular situation. We need to give them that case. Okay, so the techniques may be different. Okay, then we need to arrange learning situation or the environment in such a way. Okay, we need to arrange our classes such as, so it is not always that we take questions or case studies for taking the classes. At times what happen, I take some videos also. Okay, to initiate the discussion in the class. Okay, I take some videos based on maybe some kind of financial news or something, a clipping from the newspaper, and I take this to the class, maybe distribute to my students or show this small video maybe of 2 minutes or so. This is done to just initiate the discussion. And now the discussion is also different in two classes. Okay, commerce students focus more on how accounting things work, where there was a fraud in recording. Okay, if there is some rules which might be not taken care of while recording the transactions. Okay, where there is a problem in the accounts, whereas manager thinks about or MBA students thinks about how the financial system is being impacted when this kind of thing is happening any particular company, how the share prices may affect when any kind of fraud is detected in the company. So again, the same case, the same situation, but it depends on the teacher that how they are presenting and how they are utilizing those content into for different type of audiences. Okay, it also helps us in to acquaint him or her with the mechanism of heredity and environment. Now, as a teacher, again, it is our duty to let our students get adjusted to the environment of the classroom. So abruptly entering into the class and starting a topic without even knowing that what the students are aware of. So we need to know that what they are aware of. We need to check the background. Okay, what is what is their awareness level so that I can take up my lecture, my class according to that. Okay, again, it gives comfort to the student to speak up and talk about what he knows and what he or she doesn't know. Okay, so that they can move ahead in the required manner. It also helps in maintaining the discipline in the class. Like, look, if teacher is well prepared before going to the class, it is the best key to maintain the discipline in the class. Wheresoever we become a little weak in our class, okay, the discipline easily broken in the class. Okay, so we need to prepare pretty well when we are entering into the class, but there are a number of questions which might be asked because I'm taking PG classes. Okay, I definitely cannot be 100% when I'm taking to the class. At times, such situations come in front of us as well when we don't know the clear answer to the problem. So instead of manipulating at that moment, as teachers also we need to accept this that we don't, because we are not God, we cannot know anything. But yes, of course, as a good teacher, what I can say that I am not aware of this particular thing at this moment, but I can always get back to this after studying or getting some knowledge about that. So this is also a key to maintain the discipline if you are also fair and clear with your students. Okay. And there are small basic things that as teachers also we need to know, like we should enter before our students enter to our class. We should be there before time. Okay. We should give them handouts or, a material beforehand so that they can also come to the class after reading that what they are going to discuss in the class. Okay, then as teachers we can also give them guidance services, not during the class. Sometimes what happens, some students are not very vocal, they are not comfortable, uh, uh, they are not very comfortable speaking into the class. So you can always give them some extra time, or you can give them comfort that they can always come after the class and discuss. However, I'm not promoting this kind of habit, because as teacher we should rather promote them to speak into the class so that they will also become comfortable speaking in public and accepting if they are not aware or not knowing anything. Okay, we need to give them that comfort. Okay, But yes, initially, if the students are not comfortable, we can always offer them guidance services before or after the class. Okay. It also helps us when we are aware of the learner psychology in evaluation and assessment process of our students. Now, earlier what we used to do, summative assessment kind of thing used to happen when the final exams are done, and based on the performance in final exams only, we judge whether the student has passed that particular class or not, he has qualified that particular degree or not. But nowadays what happened, we are taking formative assessment, so the assessment process is an ongoing process. Basically, it has to be done throughout the semester. As a result, some mid-semester exams, some some kind of activities like presentations, some role plays, some some kind of activities which are done in the class, some management games. These kind of things are done in the class so that we can regularly assess our students' growth, students' development. Okay, so if we are ourselves involved in all this thing and we are trying to understand the psychology, it would be easier for us as a teachers also to evaluate and assess the performance of our student. Because it may happen that the student is performing pretty well throughout the semester, but at last moment, maybe at the time of final exam, something happened to his home, at his home, because of which he is not able to perform really well in just in his final exams. But throughout the semester, he has performed pretty well. Okay, so as a teacher, I can understand that this student was very good throughout the semester, but there might be some problem at his end because of which he was not able to perform good maybe at the time of final exam. So I can understand this thing if I understand the psychology, if I know my student during that semester. At times, it also helps us in solving classroom problems, some kind of problem which occurs in the class. If we understand the behavior of each and every student, we can help them. And as a teachers also, we will be able to solve those kind of problems which occur in the class instantaneously at times. Okay, it also helps us as teacher in knowing ourselves. We also get to know that where we are lagging, okay, and how we can improve our classroom lectures if we are understanding student psychology. Just by attending one or two classes, we'll get to know that what is the status of our students, okay, what is the level of our students, and we can plan our lectures in future according to that. So that is why I always wanted to have those challenging classes with me. Okay, because if you have good students as a teacher, we are also improving. Okay, because in my understanding, who learns the most in a class? Actually, a teacher. Okay, in every class, we learn something new. Every year, when we are getting new students, we are getting something new to learn. Okay, because we are preparing our lecture according to them. They might be listening, they might not be listening. There are many students who are listening to you if your lecture is effective. But in class of 100, there must be 4, 5, 10 students who might not be very serious or may not be listening to you. But still, as a teacher, we are giving our 100%. We are able to know ourselves pretty well if we understand our student psychology, and this is our chance to learn the math if we are a good teacher. And it also helps as a motivation for teaching and learning, because one class feedback, okay, can work as a motivation for our next class. So as a teacher, wheresoever we are lacking, we can always improve so that we can improve our teaching process and the student can get best learning out of our teaching. Okay, then it also helps us in improving the knowledge about the group study and the group behavior. Now, if we are trying to study the behavior of our students, the psychology of our students, it would helps us in better understanding the groups, okay, and their behavior. Now, the students who are behaving individual, the individual behavior of the student is different when he or she is there in the group. I can see that when the student is talking to me individually, the way he behaves, the way he or she moves her hands or their gestures, they are different when they are sitting in the class and talking within the group. Okay, there is a lot of difference in their appearance, the way they talk, the way their facial expressions are there. So, if we are observing all these things minutely, we'll be able to understand it pretty well. We'll be able to learn it, you know, the behavior, and we can, as a teacher, also improve in managing our class pretty well. Okay. Uh, Next slide, please. Ma'am, can we please change the slide?
Ma'am, I have changed, ma'am. Is it not visible, ma'am?
No, again, it's not changing. We are still on this learner psychology with regard to teaching and learning slide. It's still not changing.
Actually, I'm changing, but
No.
give me a
No.
minute, ma'am. Let me check, ma'am.
Yeah. Shall I start presenting?
Just a minute, ma'am.
Mhm. In the meanwhile, okay. Once you talked about this learning and understanding the psychology of students and how it is helpful in teaching and learning process. Okay. So further, we are going to talk about that how what is learning and how it is related to learning psychology. Basically, learning is an attempt, okay, uh, to it is an attempt to mold. Yes, it is an attempt to mold and shape the behavior of our students, and how it is not only about understanding the behavior; it must be somewhere outside. uh, it is not only about understanding the behavior of the student. It of course helps us in managing our class, but as a teacher, it is our duty doesn't end with finishing the class. Okay, teachers are someone who are not just creating, like, management teachers. We are not just creating the managers. Ultimately, we are creating good human beings. Okay. So when we are talking about learning, it is not only teaching the subject to the student, but it is an attempt where we can mold and shape their behavior to make a good citizen. Okay, to make a good human being. It aims to produce desirable changes in them for all around development of their personalities, and how we can change their behavior so that their overall personality will change by the time they are going to finish their degree. Okay, it is a kind of essential knowledge and skill to do their job satisfactorily. And supplied by learner psychology, Peels gives a few words. Okay, he was also one of the famous psychologists. He said that we should, impact the behavior of our students in such a way that they will be able to do their job in a good manner. And in this context, he said that learner psychology helps the teacher to understand the development of his pupils, the range and the limit of their capabilities, the process by which they learn, and their social relationships as well. Okay, so this is the wholesome definition when we are talking about educational psychology. Okay, it is not only that we need to understand their behavior, we have to develop their behavior as well, our students' behavior. Okay, we need to judge the range or their limit up to their capacities where they can go. Okay, we need to continuously motivate to give best. Okay, if there is a scope of improvement, we always need to focus and motivate them to improve it. And it is not only about managing this into the class, but their social relationship should also be improved. Okay, it is not only that they should behave properly in the class or they are learning their subjects pretty well. As a human being, also they need to be. really good in managing his or her social relationships. This is what we need to teach them. Okay. And please come to the next slide. Now, what are the functions of learner psychology? It is done to afford a thorough knowledge of nature of the students. Okay, so it is done wherein we can understand the thorough knowledge of through which we will know the thorough knowledge of our students' behavior. Okay, and it provides us the understanding of their nature, the aim, and the purpose of learning. Okay, so this some kind of exercise that we can do in very beginning of a new session, wherein we can ask the students that why they have opted for one particular subject. Okay, I generally ask to MCOM students or MBA students that why they have opted for MCOM. What is the purpose behind it? And to my surprise, many of them said that they have applied for MBA. They are not able to qualify for MBA class. That is why they have opted for MCOM. Just imagine the motivation level of them to pursue MCOM. Okay, but now they are your students. Now they are commerce students. Now you have to move ahead to motivate them to get best out of your commerce students now. Okay, they were a bit demotivated because they are not selected for MBA. Now, because they are not selected, that is why they are pursuing MCOM. Okay, so this kind of exercise makes us understand the nature, aim, and purpose of their learning. And based on this, what we can do, we can acquire the familiarity with a few technical vocabulary, and we can further understand and appreciate, by studying their behavior. Okay, and we can follow or we can have certain scientific procedures. Okay, through which we can understand the learner psychology. Okay, we can gather the data, and from time to time we can motivate our students by understanding their psychology. Like for MCOM students, since they came to MCOM or commerce classes because they are not able to make management classes. Now we motivate them by telling them that MBA students are ultimately taking a job once they are completing the degree. But MCOM students have no scope. They can of course take the jobs, but at the same time they can start their own ventures. And as a result, you sometime whenever you will find time, you please visit our website and see there are a number of students in the commerce students who are commerce students, and they have started their own startups by the time they have finished their degree, because we are training them in such a way. Most of the students are ending up with their own startups in the end. They don't want to get into the job, okay, but they want to start their own ventures. Okay, then it also helps us to provide a significant knowledge of development process with a particular emphasis upon promotion, guidance, and control of mental and moral aspects. As I said, it is not only about teaching the subject and making our student learn only about the subject, okay, or just to do very good in the class or related to the subject. It is about developing the moral aspect as well. Okay, not just mental, but the moral aspect as well. So it is a continuous process where we can promote, guide, and control their mental and moral aspect. And this is only possible when we understand our student psychology. Okay, then it is also helpful in providing to provide an understanding of about the principles which are governing learning, together with the knowledge of technique for guiding improvement in learning. So, as a teacher, it not only helps us in improving the learning, but as a teacher, we also improve continuously so that we can guide our students in a better manner, so that we can improve our guidance methods. Okay, and we can also help them in handling the practical problems in the classroom. We can do this by doing some kind of role plays in class, okay, or maybe playing some kind of management games, or maybe giving them case study, okay, so that we can put them into a situation and ask them to solve. However, these are the controllable, environment wherein we are putting the students into such a manner. Sometimes we can do this abruptly without any planning also. As a teacher, we can obviously plan them, but take this as a surprise to the student, okay, and see how they are behaving. Okay, then it also helps us to present the theory, understanding the measurement and evaluation of mental abilities, aptitudes, achievement, interest, and personality organization. So it ultimately helps our students in measuring and evaluating. Us as a teacher, we can evaluate the mental abilities, aptitudes, achievement in interest of our students and helps us in guiding and improving their personality as a whole. So that is why, as a teacher, it is important for us to understand the learning psychology. And these are the functions that learner psychology provides us if we are studying this thoroughly. Please come to the next slide. Okay, now what areas it is concerned with, why we need to study this thing. Okay, why we need to continuously focus on these things as well. This is something which is not upfront. Okay, this is psychology or learning psychology or understanding psychology is something which is continuously, or it is a continuous or ongoing process which is there with the teacher's mind when he or she is taking any subject in the class. Okay, now what happens to kids' mind when they are into the class? Like, does the study of Sanskrit helps than study of Hindi? Okay. Is it a way through which we can improve our memory? Why do we forget things? Why we cannot keep it remember all the time? Are there any economic way of memorizing the things? Okay. How do children acquire skills? When is learning more effective? What is the time? What is the methods that we need to follow? What are the factors that affect the learning process? Now, what are the external factors that affect the learning process that we can control? Okay, how do we measure the amount of learning? Is it the exams through which we can understand whether the students have learned something or not, or there is something beyond that as well? So, answer to these questions can be achieved by understanding the psychology of learner. Okay, please come to the next slide. Now, psychological problems which are generally faced by the students, these are the problems which are faced by the students. And if we understand these problems, okay, we'll be able to answer the questions which are there in the previous slide. Now, how students behave when they are facing some kind of psychological problem. Okay, you at times see that procrastination kind of behavior in the students. Now, what is procrastination? When they are in tendency or when they are behaving like we can say the procrastination is the act or the way of behavior when we are putting things in a delayed manner. We are just lingering on the things. We know how to do it. Okay. We know the deadline also. We know everything. But it is the act of putting off doing something that we should do till a particular period of time, particular day, particular time. But because we don't want to do this, we are not doing this. Okay, just delaying the things without any reason, without any particular, backing behind it. But we are just delaying it. So this kind of behavior you will see from the students. The student is very good in the class behavior. He knows everything. He is very good while interacting with the peers, with the teachers, everyone. But they are still not doing maybe assignments which are given to them. Okay, I'm sure as a teachers we often saw this kind of problem in our class. We know the student is very good, but still not able to get good grades. Okay, it may be because he might be procrastinating the thing. Okay, it may lead to the bad behavior, sometimes bad grades that students are getting. It may also be possible that he or she may fail because of it. Okay, it, and now sometimes the problems are faced when the students try to be perfectionist. Okay, this is also a kind of psychological thing. Okay, we want to do everything in a perfect manner. Now, when we are not able to achieve that perfectionism, it may further lead to some kind of depression, some kind of anxiety. Okay, at times some social anxiety also there when people are cutting themselves from the society because they are not perfect. Okay, if they don't have those perfect clothes, they are not coming to the class. If they are not having they have not done the assignment in a perfect manner that they want, they are not submitting the assignment because it may further lead to some low satisfaction in their life as well. And since it is a longitudinal process, it will keep on, if the person is keep on doing this, looking for the perfectionism and not able to behave according to the desire, it may further lead to low self-worth, low self-esteem. Ultimately, they are not able to perform well. Okay, so this is also a problem which is a psychological problem which our students are facing, and these are the silent issues. Okay, then Low self-esteem. It is also a sign of mental illness or mental issue that students are facing. Okay, it also creates some kind of anxiety, stress. At times, the students wants to remain lonely. Okay, they don't want to get mingled with the friends and groups. They don't want to enjoy their life. Okay, they develop that unhelpful habits. Sometimes they may involve into smoking and drinking also if they are facing low self-esteem issues. Okay, then anxiety and stress. Okay, these are also the problems that our students are generally facing. It may lead to some social behavioral problems, some poor performance. Learning may be affected. Okay, at times they will start neglecting their personal hygiene, their personal care. Okay, then weak communication. Okay, if they are facing some kind of problem, the communication also be affected. They don't want to share their things with anybody, even with their friends, with their parents, with their family, with their teachers. So as a teacher, it is our duty to give that hope, that place, that space to our students that they can come and talk to us freely. So that is why the concept of this mentor-mentee is very much promoted by UGC. Okay, a few students are allotted one mentor so that they can come and share not just the academic problems but the personal problems with their teachers as well. Okay, and we teachers works as a counselor at that time. Yes, please come to the next slide. Now, these are the major areas which are covered by learner psychology when we're focusing on this. First is learner. We have talked a lot about learner. Okay. We need to know our students and we need to deal with these individual differences that we are facing in the class. We need to understand their conscious as well as subconscious behavior. And we need to understand the characteristics of development and growth from their childhood to their adulthood, even in the span of 2 years, which for which they are there with you, even in the time of those 6 months during a semester, there is a lot of change in their behavior that we as a teacher can observe. The next is learning process. Okay, it is a learning experience to be provided with very ease, and the learning experience need to be improved. Okay. It may inculcate the remembering when they are coming to the class and how you are using your slides, your the pictures, the videos, or the way you are taking the supplementary material that you are taking for making your class more interesting. Okay, what would be your additional support for making this learning process more remembering, understanding, or perceiving, or maybe problem solving or thinking provoking. Okay, or maybe some kind of training. Okay, the next is learning situation is the classroom environment. Okay, how peaceful, how undisturbing that environment is. Okay, now as a teacher, it is our responsibility to give that best environment. Now what happens sometimes, students not happy with sitting in the same classroom with the four walls and one terrace and listening to the teachers. Okay, now what happens, what I do, we have small plazas outside the buildings. At times, especially when I'm taking classes for the specialization papers, when the numbers of students are not very high in the class, so I take them to the plaza for the discussion, and then we initiate some kind of discussion. So this is how I've changed the environment, I've changed the situation. Okay, and this change is very appreciable by the students at times. So these three things, what we have talked about till now. The next is teaching situation. Okay, the teaching situation is the teaching pedagogy which we need to change according to the age, according to the mental level, the past knowledge and interest of our students. And then we need to evaluate the learning performance as well. Okay, we have to see that what is the development of our learner. Okay, as I've mentioned earlier also, instead of summative assessment, we need to follow the formative assessment. Okay, and accordingly we can guide or counsel our students. And last, of course, but not the least, this last area covers the first 5 areas of learner psychology, that is the teacher. So we as a teacher need to know ourselves first. We need to understand our personality traits as well. We need to understand our interest, our attitudes, characteristics. Okay, how effective our teaching is. Okay, and how we can handle the stress and anxiety that is created. Okay, it is our duty as a teacher to understand ourselves first. If we are doing good in terms of our personality handling, then only we can pass it to our students. So we need to take care. Self-care is most important, I must say. Please come to the next slide. Now, there are three different methods of studying the psychology of learning, which includes introspection method, observation method, and experimental method. Okay, please come to the next slide. Okay, now when I talk about introspection method, okay, as the word itself suggests, it is made up of Latin word which includes intro and aspection. Intro means within and inspection means looking. Now, when we are looking into ourselves, when an individual is looking into oneself, when we are asking question to ourselves, then it is said to be the introspection method. There are three stages involved in this. During this method, we are studying the observation of external objects. The person being to ponder over his own mental state. We need to check our own mental state. That like what situation trigger my anger, what situation makes me happy. Okay, when I feel sad, I need to understand those external environment which affects my behavior. So as an individual, I need to check myself first. I have to look into myself first. The person being to question working on his mind. Similarly, this is something we can introduce to our students as well. Okay, when he or she is feeling sad, when they are feeling happy, how they feel good about their learning, we can do this by taking the feedback. Okay, and it has to be a silent feedback. It is not that we need to circulate a questionnaire after every class to understand how your class went. Okay, it is a silent feedback. It needs to be understood by the teacher. Okay, and then he tries to frame the law and condition of mental process. He thinks in terms of improving his reasoning or control his or her emotional state. Now, once we understand that how and where we are, triggered by any kind of situation, external factor. If we understand this thing, then we can work on improving our emotional and psychological stage as well. So when we are checking our behavior and trying to improve our behavior, we are following introspection method. Please come to the next slide. The next is observation method. Observation deals with the overt behavior of person in appropriate situation. Everything is perfect. Situation is perfect. It is just that we are observing it minutely and silently. Okay. It is also known as a measurement without an instrument. We don't have any instrument to measure anything. Okay. It is just we are observing. It may be biased because at times what happens, what we are observing, we are looking at that particular situation from our lens. Okay. But yes, as a teacher, we can also follow this method in improving our class. Now, there are 4 steps which we generally follow when we are following observation method. We are first observing the behavior. We check how individual student is behaving in a particular manner. Okay. The next is recording the behavior. I have noticed that how my students are behaving, I immediately note it down or record it somewhere. Otherwise, it is a tendency, human tendency, we tend to forget the behavior. Okay. Then once I have made the record, I got the data. Now next step is to analyze and interpret the behavior. And once I have interpreted the behavior, we can generalize this behavior because from the first batch I did this study using the observation method. I can apply this to the next batch. But yes, 100% application is not possible. We are trying to generalize, but yes, there is a difference between first batch and second batch. We need to change our observation. We need to change our tools. We need to change our analysis according to behavior of our class. But we have first-hand information. We have first-hand, this about the class because generally the students behave in a similar fashion in the class. There may be 1 or 2 cases which may be different from the previous class, and that we need to handle from class to class basis. Okay. Next, please. And the last is experimental method. As the name suggests, it is an experiment. Okay. Now, in 1879, William Booth established the first psychological laboratory in Leipzig. This is a city in the Germany. And this experimental method consists of action performed under pre-arranged or rigidly controlled conditions. Now, people are invited to this lab. Okay, they are told that they are under observation. They were given a situation and they asked to react accordingly. Okay, And based on that, J.W. Best described that experimental research is the description and analysis of what will be or what will occur under carefully controlled situation. Okay, everything is told to our respondents, and we are looking into this, that how they are responding to it. Okay, these are the steps we generally follow in our researches as well. That first we need to identify the problem, where the problem is, what we need to check. According to that, we formulate our assumptions, our hypothesis. Third, we make distinction between our independent and dependent variables. Okay, we segregate our independent and dependent variables. Next is introducing the controlling variables to our situation. So controlling the situational variables, we introduce this to our the situation where we are performing this experiment. And then we analyze, once we have collected the data based on the first four steps, we analyze the results, and based on this, we check whether we accept the hypothesis, the assumptions that we have made in second step or not. Okay, this is how we work on experimental method. This is the widely used methods in social sciences studies, okay, wherein we are using the primary data to analyze the human behavior in different ways, in different aspects. Okay, so this is how we can study the behavior of our students also, and we can, improve the teaching learning process in our class. Please come to the next slide. So this is the last slide, and I will end with this quotation by Swami Dayanand Saraswati, who said that a teacher is not a professional for he or she has no clients. We as a teacher, we don't have clients. We have only students. So teacher-student relationship is one like even mother-child relationship. Okay, that means the teacher cares, and we care without expecting anything from the students. Okay, this caring for students makes a teacher a real teacher. Okay, so thank you. If there are any questions, you are most welcome to ask.